Some of the earliest material in our collections obviously dates from the 18th century, the century in which the two halves of our regiment, the 34th Foot and the 55th, were raised. But in the early half of that period, the first half of the century, regiments were known largely by their colonels' names. But in the 1740s, regiments were given numbers. This was based on their seniority. So the older the regiment, the lower the number. So our two regiments ended up with the numbers 34th and 55th. And these numbers start to appear on uniform items and kit in the latter half of the 18th century. We don't have many examples in the collection, but some of the things that we do have, which date from around about 1770 to 1800, are buttons from the soldiers' and officers' tunics. One of the things we have here, this is a frame of various badges worn during the 18th century, the buttons worn during the 18th century right through into the Victorian period. But in the lower half of the frame, we have 5 buttons, and it is the 4 pewter buttons, 3 of them worn by soldiers with the number 34 in the centre, and another one which is a slightly larger disc here, which is probably silver over copper, which is worn by an officer. They really are incredibly rare. They're more likely to be found on archaeological excavations these days than actually on an original uniform, because original uniform items really are incredibly rare. So although they look rather insignificant, they really are quite important early parts of our history. And we have 2 other buttons to the 55th Regiment that were both found during excavations in the West Indies. So obviously lost when the regiment was there in the late 1700s, and picked up and then found their way to us. So very simple items, but very important, and starting this tradition of regimental numbers and distinctions, and this idea of seniority. The older your regiment, the more senior you are, carries on. And although regiments lost their numbers in 1881, when the 34th and 55th Foot merged to become the Border Regiment, they still use the numbers 34 and 55 for the respective battalions they became, on sports gear, other badges, and various other things. So although the numbers disappear officially, they're kept on through insignia and other things that the regiment has.